It had been a long time since he had spoken to his father. Too long. A few months back they had gotten into a heated disagreement, and things hadn't been the same since. And it wasn't always like this, of course. His father was his role model, his hero growing up. He was an only child, and his father had been his teacher, his mentor, and in many ways his best friend. And many of his greatest memories featured time spent bonding with his father. And now he couldn't help but wonder how they had gotten to this point. They never fought, ever. And that's it, he thought. I'm going to call him. I'm going to set things straight and schedule a special breakfast for next week. And he was about to pick up the phone when he looked at his schedule. He was pretty booked for the next few days, so it made more sense to call to schedule for next week. But he also had a meeting in 15 minutes, so the conversation would be cut short if he called now. So he phoned his secretary. "Hi Sharon, can you please remind me to call my father next Monday morning?" "Sure thing," she said. He smiled to himself, proud that he was being the bigger person, and went back to preparing for his meeting. That Sunday he got the call. He almost dropped the phone. His father had been in an accident and passed away on the spot. And he couldn't control himself. He burst out into tears. Not only because he lost his father, but because he never had the chance to tell him how much he loved him, how important he was to him, how much he treasured their relationship. If only he had made that call, if only he had been more spontaneous. But now it was too late. The opportunity was lost forever. And this connects to something so important in this week's Parsha, because when you wake up in the morning, how do you start your day? Many people immediately take out their phones and look at their messages, and they're bombarded by a rush of incoming data. But in doing so, we begin our day in a reactive state, allowing external stimuli to become the foundation of our day. And with that starting point, it's all too easy for the entire day to become one long reactive experience. Highly successful people, however, don't immediately look at their phones upon waking. Rather, they engage in mindful, productive tasks upon waking, generating proactive momentum to their morning. And this allows them to choose what to think about and what to focus on, enabling them to accomplish their goals throughout the day. Instead of allowing external stimuli to guide their waking thoughts, they replace it with mindful, guided, and goal-oriented thinking. And davening in the morning accomplishes this exact objective, providing us with a structured way to begin our day with mindfulness and directed thought. And Parshas Naso features the Chanukas HaMishkan, the inauguration of the tabernacle. At this ceremony, the Nesiim, the princes of each shevet, of each tribe, contributed spectacular gifts toward the Mishkan. And Chazal explained that these donations were intended to be a tikkun, a rectification for their previous sin. Because earlier in Parshas Vayakal, the Nesiim are criticized for their inappropriate approach regarding their donations towards the building of the Mishkan. They delayed in donating gifts for the Mishkan, and in the interim, the Jewish people donated everything needed for the Mishkan, leaving the Nesiim with nothing to give. However, it's important to note that their intentions were pure. They intended to wait and see what was still needed in the Mishkan after the rest of Klal Yisrael had finished donating, and they would then donate whatever was still needed, filling in the rest. The Nesiim assumed that if everybody donated simultaneously, there would be many overlapping gifts, while other essential things might be left out completely. The Nesiim therefore wanted to fill in the gaps, ensuring that the donation process was completed properly. However, when the giving stopped and the dust settled, there was nothing left to give. Klal Yisrael had surpassed all expectations, donating every single required item and even exceeding the required quotas. The Nesiim, due to their delay, lost out on their chance to contribute towards the Mishkan. The Nesiim are therefore criticized for their lack of alacrity in donating to the Mishkan, and it's apparent that they realized their mistake as they tried to rectify it by contributing elaborate gifts during the Chanukas HaMishkan. However, we have to ask what the Nesiim did that was so improper. I mean, after all, their calculation seems sound, if not ideal. Why donate something that's already been given? Isn't it worthwhile to ensure that your gift will be useful? Why then do we view their actions or lack thereof in such a negative light? And furthermore, how did the Nesiim's gifts in Parshas Naso rectify their mistake? So in order to understand this episode, we have to first understand the nature and meaning of chesed, loosely translated as kindness and giving. The spiritual concept of chesed is the ability to expand beyond one's limited self and contribute towards others. As the Pasuk in Tehillim says, Olam Chesed Yibana, the world was built through Chesed. Hashem created this world as an act of expansion and pure kindness, with the goal of giving to each and every one of us. Thus, when we give to others, we emulate Hashem. And the Maharal explains that there are two distinct forms of giving. The first is responsive, when a person gives only that which is needed. And this means giving only when a person sees a need or when someone asks for help. And the drawback of this form of giving is that it's only done because it is compelled. It's caused by an external need. And if this individual had not seen another in need, he wouldn't have helped. And while giving in this situation can still be done with pure intentions, there's a possibility that the giving is motivated by guilt, or to avoid feeling the emotional pain of another person's lack. If you see a person in dire need of help, looking much less fortunate than yourself, you tend to feel bad for them. You want to help them, but you also want to make yourself feel better, to get rid of those feelings of guilt. And this can be contrasted to the second form of chesed, which is proactive, which is when you give purely for the sake of giving. And this reflects a compelling desire to give and help others. In this case, there's no external cause for the giving. Rather, it stems from a deep internal desire to expand outwards and help others. Instead of waiting reactively for people to come to you, you proactively seek out opportunities to help. In a deep sense, this form of chesed doesn't stem from someone else's need to receive, but from your internal desire to give. You'll therefore happily give to someone even if they aren't in need, even if they already have what you wish to give them. And we can now understand the mistake and the subsequent rectification of the Nesiim. When it came to the building of the Mishkan, the Nesiim were reactive. Their calculation may have been rational and sound, but that itself was the problem. Because when you truly love someone, you give for the sake of giving, spontaneously, as an expression of overwhelming love. If you love Hashem, you eagerly give to the Mishkan for the sake of giving, even if there may be overlap between the gifts. The practical concern of specific inventory can be dealt with at a later stage. But by waiting until the end to give their gifts, the Nesiim displayed a slight lack in their love for Hashem. And the Nesiim later rectified this mistake at the Chanukas HaMishkan when they gave their gifts spontaneously and proactively. Whereas they gave last when it came to the building of the Mishkan, they gave first at its inauguration. But there's another unique feature of these gifts. The commentators note that all 12 of the Nesiim gave identical gifts at the Chanukas HaMishkan, and yet the Torah enumerates each gift individually, repeating the same exact description over and over again. And this seems redundant and unnecessary, because why did each Nasi give the same exact gift as their fellow 11 Nesiim? And why does the Torah detail all 12 of them? But this, in fact, was their ultimate rectification, because their sin lay in being reactive, and their tikkun came through proactivity. Their sin lay in over-calculating and worrying about overlapping their gifts. Their tikkun came specifically through giving the same exact gift, an explicit expression of repetition, and a true expression of giving for the sake of giving. And there's an additional layer to this as well. While it appears that each of the Nesiim gave the same gift, that's only true on the surface level. The Midrash explains that while each Nasi gave an identical gift, each gift reflected the unique spiritual essence of the Nasi Shevet. The external packaging may have been the same, but the internal meaning was fundamentally different. And this idea is essential to our own lives as well. We say the same words of Shemona Esrei 3 times a day, but each and every tefillah should be unique. We say the same physical words, but as the Nefesh HaChaim explains, each time we have the opportunity and responsibility for a new and elevated internal experience of connection and meaning. The thoughts and feelings that infuse the words of this prayer will never be the same as those which shape another prayer. And this brings us full circle. When you wake up in the morning, how do you start your day? Are you reactive to that which comes your way, or do you proactively pave your path? Success doesn't come by accident. It comes from mindful planning, intense commitment, and consistent execution. If we live a reactive life, we'll wake up one day and wonder why we're so far from our desired destination. True success requires proactivity, and the virtue of proactivity stems from the midah of chesed, proactively seeking ways to do good, to help others, to improve the world around us. So may we be inspired to become so full of love that we proactively seek out ways to contribute to those around us.